Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
All glories to Sri Guru and Ranga.
Glory to the Guru, Gauranga.
Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 5, Pause of all pauses. Text number 32. Yada,
Ete,
Samhita,
Sangasaha,
Bhava,
Yuta,
Andriya,
Indriya,
Mana,
Mana,
Puna,
Guna,
Yada,
Yuda,
Ayatana,
Ayutana,
Mani,
Nirmani,
Nasu, Asheku,
Nasheku,
Dhammavidhamma,
Brahmavidama,
Vidaite, Samhita, Bhava,
Daite, Samanthama,
Chandriya, Bhava,
Bhutendriya, Manoguna,
Vidayatana, Nirmane,
Gayatana, Nirmani,
Asheku, Dhammavidhamma,
Nasheku, Brahmavidama,
Vidaite, Samhita, Bhava, Chandriya, Bhava, Vidayatana, Nirmane,
Yadaite Sangata Bhava Tanjana Yadayatana Nasheka Brahmavittama
Daite Sangita Bhava
Yadaite Sangata Bhava
Bhutendriya Manogunaha Yadayatana Nirmane Shekur Brahmavittama
Aite Shangata Bhava Utendriya Manogunaha Yadayatana Nirmane Nashekur Brahmavitama
Yadayate Sangata Bhava
Sangata Bhava
Utendriya Manoguna
Tendriya Noguna
Yadayatana Nirmane
Yadayatana Nirmane
Nasekur Brahmavitama
Nasekar Brahmavittama
Yadaite Sangata Bhava
Yadayate Sangata Bhava
Bhutendriya Manogunaha
Tendriya Vinayana
Yadayatana Nirmane Nashekur Brahmavittama
Yadayate Sangata Bhava Bhutendriya Manogunaha Yadayatana Nirmana Nashekur Brahma Vittama
Yadayate Sangata
Yadaite Sangata Bhava Yandriya Manogunaha as long as they take these Sangata assembled Bhava so situated the senses, the mind, the nine modes of nature, Yadam, so long, Ayatana, body, in the matter being formed, Nasheku was not possible. Brahmavittama, O Narada, the best knower of transcendental knowledge. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. O Narada, best of the transcendentalists, The forms of the body could not take place as long as these created parts, namely the elements, senses, mind, and the modes of nature, were assembled. Report. The different types of bodily construction of the living entities are exactly like different types of motor cars manufactured by assembling the allied motor parts. When the car is made ready, the driver sits in the car and moves it as he desires. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 1861. The living entity is as if seated on a machine on the body, and the car of the body is moving by the control of material nature, just as the railway trains are moving under the direction of the controller. The living entities are, however, not the bodies. They are separate from the cars of the body. But the less intelligent material scientists cannot understand the process of assembling the parts of the body, namely the senses, the mind, and the qualities of the material modes. Every living entity is a spiritual spark, part and parcel of the Supreme Being. And by the kindness of the Lord, for the Father is kind to his sons, the individual living beings are given a little freedom to act according to their will, lorded over the material nature. Just as the Father gives some playthings for the crying child to satisfy him, similarly, the whole material creation is made possible by the will of the Lord, to allow the bewildered living entities to lord it over things as they desire, although under the control of the agent of the Lord. The living entities are exactly like small children playing the material field under the control of the maidservant of the Lord, nature. They accept the ayah, or the maidservant, as all in all, and thus wrongly conceive the supreme truth to be feminine, goddess, Durga, etc. The foolish, childlike materialists cannot reach beyond the conception of the maidservant, material nature, but the intelligent grown-up sons of the Lord know well that all the acts of material nature are controlled by the Lord, just as a maidservant is under the control of the master, the father of the undeveloped children. The parts of the body, namely the senses, etc., are the creation of the Mahatattva, and when they are assembled by the will of the Lord, the material body comes into existence, and the living entity is allowed to use it for further activities. It is explained as follows. Translation again. O Narada, best of the transcendentalists, the forms of the body could not take place as long as these created parts, namely the elements, senses, mind, and the modes of nature, were assembled. Honorable Maharaj, would you like to comment?
Excuse me, the other microphone. The analogy of the motor parts, the automobile, very appropriate. We can see that an automobile doesn't happen automatically. And even if someone put forward the theory that given enough time, nature would make an arrangement so an automobile came of its own. No sane person can believe that, because the technical parts, the combination of the different parts is so complex, depending on computers, technology. One has to fit there, this has to be put in at this point. Plastic, metal, glass, all these things have to be intercombined. So to think that that happens by itself or automatically given enough time is ludicrous. And it's made even more objectionable that this is presented as the topmost scientific knowledge that we have available. And if you ask any intelligent person, how long would it take for an automobile to assemble itself? Given time. They say, well, given enough time, anything can happen. But this is just theorizing, nothing more. It's not science. It's not knowledge, and it's not provable. So they try to beg the question. They don't want to accept that there is a all-knowing personality that is in charge of everything, that is controlling everything. Maya lakshana prakriti suyate sacharacharam hetananena kunteya jagati parivartate. The material nature, Krishna says, is working under my control, my supervision. And under the order of Priti, material energy, so many things are going on. Modes of material nature are acting, and different bodily parts are being formed. How is it that there have to be certain parts of the body, the organs have to be developed and designed? It's not accidental. It's very, very advanced science that today most people have no conception how these things are going on. But if you accept Krishna's words, then everything makes sense. They say, well, how can Krishna's words prove that these different parts, the three modes, how can they prove that that's reality? Well, it's difficult for us to prove because no one has such technology. It's exclusive to him. And the logical, it was transcendental knowledge, it also has to be logical. It can't be something we never see, for example, living entities coming from non-living entities. We do see, however, all the time that living entities produce other living entities. This should be a clue that that's how it's done. That's how the whole picture is taking place. That there is one living entity gives birth to another living entity. And if you trace out the history going back, you'll find that there was an original person. And that original person produced others, such as Brahma. The original person is Vishnu or Krishna. And Brahma in the material world is the first living being. And his body is the most developed, extraordinary. It's the closest to the spiritual body, you could say. Because it has so many mystic powers and it lives for such a long time, manifests itself for such a long time. Billions of years, trillions of years. So we get some clue that the material bodies are facsimiles, they're reflections of the spiritual bodies. And just as the material body has so many parts, spiritual body has all these parts, but it's even higher technology. It's not as gross as we see a gross manifestation by a less intelligent person trying to imitate how a very advanced automobile run. It would be gross and kind of quaint. But transcendental knowledge reveals everything. So one doesn't have to just rely on his mind, but it's revealed. Just as Krishna reveals himself to the devotee. He says, I reveal myself. But the fools, they think that I'm just an ordinary person coming under the laws of material nature. So he comes from time to time into the material world, and he demonstrates some of his abilities, some of his qualities and his powers. And then those who are sincere souls, they will be able to understand, yes, this is what Krishna was saying. Otherwise, how could he hold a mountain? Otherwise, how could he marry 16,000 wives unless he's this free?
Dr. Maharaj, thank you very much. So this sloka is an address by Lord Brahma to his disciple, Sri Narada Muni, and he addresses his disciple, best of the transcendentalists. Brahma doesn't say, I'm the best of the transcendentalists. He's praising his disciple, Narada. And just like a father is pleased when his son outperforms him or surpasses him, similarly, a spiritual master is pleased if a disciple can perform better service than he. And today's Guru Purnima, on this day in the Hindu world, the Guru is worshipped, but Srila Prabhupada established Guru Puja as a regular daily function. And the impersonalists think that since matter is full of varieties, this material world is full of varieties, spiritual life must be variety less, because spirit must be the opposite of matter. But this is a wrong conception. We can see each one of you has a different body, has a different bodily construction, different facial features. This is due, each one of us got this body as a result of our different karma. And each karma is individual, that is decided according to our activities. And there are 8,400,000 species of life. Why are there so many varieties of life? What is the reason? Yes, Jagannath Prabhu.
Is it because Krishna incarnates himself in so many incarnations, like in 8,400,000 incarnations, kind of like that?
Yes, that's true. But there are 8,400,000 different desires of the living entities. So Krishna is very kind. He fulfills the desire of the living entities. And each one of us has a father. None of us is born without a father. And in every religion, God is described as a supreme father. And the Bible says that man is made after the features of God. So we have 2 hands and 2 legs because God has 2 hands and 2 legs. It is not that the Father's made after the features of men. Sometimes the non-believers say that, well, you're imagining that God has a form with one head and 2 arms and 2 legs because that's your form, and this is called anthropomorphism. They're ascribing human characteristics to the divine. But according to the Vedas, God is the supreme person. None of you can say that my father was not a person. My father was formless. Everyone's father had a form, and this is why you have a form. And his father also had a form, and the great-grandfather also had a form. And if you go back far enough, you'll find that the ultimate father in this universe, Lord Brahma, he also had a form with 4 heads. And his predecessor, Lord Narayan, which is an expansion of Lord Krishna, and the original form of Godhead has 1 head, 2 hands, and 2 legs. But his body is transcendental, whereas our body is temporary. And these forms in the material world, they're further reflections on the forms in the spiritual world, where everything is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. And sometimes the feminists imagine that God is female because they've had bad experience being exploited by males in this material world. So they're angry at the concept of male supremacy. So they imagine that the ultimate absolute truth is a goddess, like a goddess Durga or goddess Kali. And there's one bogus guru in India. He's a very famous guru, Ramakrishna. He said that I become God by worshiping goddess Durga. By goddess Durga's mercy, I've become God. But according to the Bhagavad Gita, those who are worshiping the demigods, they've lost their intelligence. So he's saying, by losing my intelligence, I've become God. So only a dog would say that I'm God. Even when God came as Lord Chaitanya, when people would address him as Krishna or the Supreme Personality of God, he would block his ears. He didn't want to hear himself addressed as God. And these rascals are proclaiming, I'm God. So God is always God. He always was God, and he always will be God, the supreme absolute truth. In the material world, everybody is striving to become the supreme. And the last snare of Maya is believing that I am God, I am Brahman. It's true that I'm Brahman, but I'm not the supreme Brahman. Any comments or questions? Yes, try Keshava Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So in related to your comments about Krishna having the human form, we hear in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 11, fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the supreme Lord of all that be. Is it the case, like we describe the Lord as being blackish, like that Krishna is like has a human form, but we describe it as that because we have to use language that we know, because it's spiritual, it's not material. So is it the same case with the form?
Yes, the forms in the kingdom of God are completely Chidananda. Vigraha, they're eternal, full of knowledge and bliss, whereas these forms are temporary, full of ignorance and miserable. And Krishna's form is described in the Vedic literatures, such as Sri Brahma Samhita, which is composed by Lord Brahma. He plays the flute. He has a peacock feather in his hair. He's surrounded by hundreds of thousands of goddesses of fortune, and he takes pleasure in herding the cows. So these activities can be understood by a materialist, but they're not material. And by reading Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, we can understand how great God is. And we can follow the instructions of the great, but we should not try to imitate the great, because it's not possible for a conditioned soul to lift a mountain like Govardhan Hill, or to dance with others' wives without being involved in sinful activities. And we also cannot smoke ganja like Lord Shiva. By doing so, one is calling death very near. So nowadays in the state of Missouri, Ganga is legalized. Recreational Ganga is legalized, as far as I know. This means they're calling death near. They're going in the wrong direction. So it's very difficult to convince these rascals, but by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, anything is possible, even for the most fallen, conditioned souls. And in relation to Krishna, all the Jiva souls are female. Krishna's the Purusha, and we are Prakriti. We're meant to be enjoyed by Krishna. And last month, the United States was celebrating Pride Month, where gay people and transgender people and bisexuals and lesbians have an opportunity to express their individuality. And there's a very strange movement now where children, some of them identify as transgenders. Sometimes the males identify as females and the females identify as males. And they, when they go to school, the teachers say that you should be allowed to have a sex change operation. You should be allowed to have chemical castration and to take female hormones. And some of them do this, but later on, they regret it because there are so many physical problems caused by these unnatural operations. Some of the teenage girls have double mastectomies, and these skin grafts on their chest sometimes get infected later on, and they have so many problems. So children should not be allowed to do what they want to do, but they should be guided by their parents who have greater experience and intelligence, because a child is by nature foolish. But in the schools, they say that children should be allowed to do what they want. If a boy wants to be a girl, let him be a boy. Let him go to the girls' restroom. So this is a crazy movement nowadays. But actually, the Jiva soul is neither male nor female. Any more comments or questions? Yes, Jagannath Prabhu.
I just wanted to say that I appreciate your very bold statements, and I just want to say that one day I hope to be confident enough in Krishna and Srila Prabhupada to say to tell the truth. So thank you.
Yeah. All glories to Dhanavir Goswami. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. It's time for the Sankirtan Festival.
Hare Krishna and dear devotees. So, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 book distributors for the week of Hold on. Yeah, I don't know. For the week of, I don't know. For the week of June 28th through July 2nd, we had 8 book distributors. And I'll read the scores for the pleasure of Sri Sri Gauranitai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, Radha Krishna, Srila Prabhupada, Tulsi Maharani, the assembled acharyas, the assembled devotees, and all the Sampradaya acharyas. So, in 8th position with 5 medium books for a total of 2.5 book points, Jivadaya Prabhu, Haribo. In 7th position with one Mahabig and 1 book for a total of 3 book points, Radhastali Devi Dasi, Haribo. In 6th position with 2 big books, 3 medium books, 5 small books for a total of 4.75 book points, Magadari Prabhu. In 5th place with 2 Mahabig, 1 big, 1 medium, 1 small for a total of 5.75 book points, Krishnendu Prabhu. In 4th position with 1 Mahabig, 2 bigs, 3 medium, 5 small for a total of 6.75 book points, Jaya Keshava Prabhu. In 2nd position with 61 Maha, 122 big, 61 medium and 61 medium for a total of 274.5 book points, Radha Damodar Prabhu. And in 1st position with 4 Srimad Bhagavatam sets, 129 Maha big books, 147 big books, 56 medium books, and 3 small books for a total of 700. I'm so sorry. For a total of 700, sorry, I totally missed that. So we have a book distributor who I missed. This book distributor is in 6th position with 1 big book, 2 medium books, 7 small books for a total of 3.75 book points. My apologies. Subha Sakya Prabhu, Haribo. And Rishi Kumar's total is 721.75 book points. So that's really ecstatic. And then the RVC total for this week is, I don't have all the, we just have the total. So I'll just say that it's 1,022.75 book points. Rupanuga Vedic College, Ki Jai. Oh, you didn't, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, what is it? Too big, too medium, 5. 7.5 points. Okay. In 3rd place? In 3rd position with how many? With 2 big, 3 medium, and 5 small. What points? For a total of 4 book points. Mridanga Prabhu. Haribo. And so Rishi Kumar Prabhu sent a voice message about his highlights. So I'll just give that right now. Here we go.
My highlight from this week, there was a Indian guy at the Indian store, and I asked him where he's from, and I think he said something like Mumbai, and I said something like Jai Mumbai, and I just talked to him very briefly, and I was telling him that we have a temple, and we're working on renovations for the temple. Here's a couple of the things we're working on, this and that. We're about half done. Can you give some donation to help with the temple? And anyone who's donating, we're also giving them gifts. And I showed him, we're giving them Prabhupada's books, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. And he said, yes, I'd love to donate. So he went over, and I think at first he was going to donate like 100 or something. And he might have asked how much. I showed him on this little pamphlet that talks about the temple. There's bronze, silver, and gold. And gold is 10,008, silver is 1,008, bronze is 308. So I said, can you give one of these donations? And he said, okay, yes, let's do the bronze. So he donated 308, and then I gave him the Bhagavatam, and we took a picture, and he was a nice guy. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Does I don't see Jivadaya. Subhasak. Wait, hold on, sorry. Jaya Keshava Prabhu is next.
Hare Krishna. So at the plaza for Mahaharinam on Saturday, we had a blissful time of a couple hours of chanting and dancing and distributing books. But on the way back, Radhastali and I, we stopped this family that was walking the plaza and asked if they would like we said, I commented, wow, you guys look like such a nice family. And they smiled, and I was like, my wife and I were here trying to distribute these books on spiritual science and how to realize that we're not our bodies, and about yoga and philosophy. And that struck a tone, the word yoga, with the wife, and she took the book and gave a donation for it. Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna. I also was with the devotees in the Harinam at the plaza. And I didn't feel so confident in distributing books, so I said, let me just try to get people to chant the holy name. And I tried stopping people and getting them to chant Hare Krishna. And these two people stopped after I handed them instruments. And then they started chanting. So then I felt inspired, and I handed them the books. And then they took the books. They were happy. They were visiting from Atlanta, actually. So it was pretty spontaneous and ecstatic transaction. Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai.
Vasaki Prabhu.
So, this was at the plaza on Saturday. We had a big group. We went out there. I had to first do some kirtan in order to get in the mind frame. And so I distributed some books, and then I see these couple coming, and I said hello to them, and they were kind of really pleasant. And the woman was pregnant, and I'm trying to figure out who's going to be more interested. So I'm trying to pick who to focus on talking to. And I finally decided the fella is going to be more concentrated. The woman probably had too much things on her head. And so I was telling them about the philosophy, and they seemed like they already knew half of it. But they were very receptive, and so I left them with a book, and they gave a nice donation. Translate book distribution key, Jai. Goodbye, Prabhu. Do you have a highlight that you would like to share?
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Well, we went to the plaza and we were out there chanting, and there was a couple young boys that were watching us, and I decided to go talk to them. And they were nice. They were acting pretty cool. They were not giving me too many signs that they were super interested, but they also weren't telling me to get lost. So I showed them the books and showed them the card, and we chanted a few moments. And then one of the boys said, "Yeah, actually, this is my name." And then he said, "Yeah, my name is Rama." And but that was pretty cool. And then I gave him the books and said, "You guys, just give a little donation, give from the heart." And Rama, he didn't give anything. He may not have had it, but his friend pulled out a couple little coins from his pocket and he gave the donation. So, Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai.
Radha Stali, are you able to give a highlight?
He's on. Maybe I can.
Sri Harinam Sankirtan Yajna Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees.